So a couple of weeks ago, I released a AI cold caller template that you really loved. And all it did is it basically allowed you to build a dynamic agent on Vapi with dynamic data from whatever lead list or customer list you basically would like to cold call or call from, right? It doesn't necessarily just apply for cold calling. You can use it for mostly anything, but the possibility is there. So today's video is about that plus a lot more, because I'm literally going to provide you an updated version of this template that includes a lot more features from the learnings that we had over the past couple of weeks with our clients, as well as with the tools we are using internally. And this is literally just a boiled down template that is so powerful that you can use it even while being a beginner in the AI voice space. And the best part of it, you will literally get access to all of the templates, resources, and everything completely for free directly inside of my resource hub. If you have not heard of my resource hub yet, it is basically a platform where I'm sharing with you anything I create on this channel completely for free, so that you can leverage it inside of your company without completely building it from scratch. And lastly, if you don't know who I am, my name is Janis Moore. I run my own AI agency, and we basically help our clients to become more successful by leveraging the power of voice AI. And with that out of the way, we are nearly ready of getting into it. I just would like to mention a couple of things before, so you know exactly what to expect while watching this video. In the beginning, I will show you a quick example on how that works and how you can set it up so that you have an understanding of the easiest way on getting started, even without any kind of coding knowledge or understanding the whole backend structure. So I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. And then after, I will spend a couple of extra minutes on discussing and explaining the features that this template includes, so that you can get a better understanding of it. So obviously, it definitely makes sense if you have heard of AI phone calling in the first place, so you understand what it means to have an AI phone caller. If not, I have released a couple of videos before that explain that stuff in depth, so feel free to check them out and then come back to this one. Now, to actually explain you what this whole template is about and how it works, I would like to explain you a couple of features that are included so that you understand the whole concept. Obviously, we are going to leverage Vapi, and as you know, Vapi has static assistance inside of the dashboard, which is not what we are looking for, because we would like to have dynamic data. But what this template allows you is literally use a static assistant you can create and update and maintain inside of the Vapi dashboard, and we then use automation to turn this into a complete transient-based assistant in the backend to make it more dynamic. And what this means is, by default, Vapi doesn't offer you anything called tags or anything like tags that basically allow you to implement dynamic information into the assistants. But with this template, you will see something like that here. So you can literally just implement tags dynamically from whatever your lead list looks like into the assistant, and this will then be automatically translated to the customer information or lead information that you have available. So this is as a background for the Vapi assistant, and here is going to be the Google Sheet template that I'm going to share with you completely for free too. It has a couple of really interesting points down here. We have a reporting tab, which shows us how many leads we basically have in total, which ones have been called and not called, as well as the transcripts. And right over here, we have another graph that basically shows the ended reason for a call, or like the ending reason for a call. So all of that stuff is dynamic, and it basically updates while you're actually working with this sheet, and it just gives you a better understanding of the basic information that is available inside of the Google Sheet and what happens behind the scenes. And then what you already know from my previous template is the lead sheet, which is where you are defining all of the information of your leads. So if you have a lead sheet, you would literally just import that right within this Google Sheet part right here, and you adjust the values so they fit to the columns. We have the phone number, first name, the status is basically if you have called it or not. This is the one that you usually set to not-called if you haven't called them yet. If you have called them, you set them to called, etc. You have a country where basically the lead is from, and the phone number ID is another very interesting feature that is a combination of what I've shown you on my channel previously, and I would say the latest technologies to make sure you can even scale this assistant. So this one is completely scalable right out of the box. And this phone number ID is basically a reference where we can round robin between a set of numbers, so that we make sure we don't run into any kind of limitations with either rate limits or maybe even like caller ID reputation, etc. So this is just a very basic explanation. I'm trying to keep it simple here, so stay with me. The transcripts, obviously you will have transcripts available for every single chat that you basically have with that assistant. I have tried it 3 times here just to have some information available. And lastly, we have a phone number reference table where we basically are able to add our phone numbers from within Vapi, which we can use dynamically to loop through all of the phone numbers for that assistant, so we make sure we don't run into the rate limits like I mentioned. So this is the basic concept for the Google Sheet, and where you will basically spend most of your time, and hopefully if you are really using that live. It works. We have tested it in many cases. We've even implemented this one for customers, obviously in a more advanced way, so with extra features and extra endpoints, but this gives you a really good understanding of how it works. And if you understand extend the technical parts a little bit, you can easily extend that, and I'm going to explain you also why later in this video. Okay, but for now, so that you can actually leverage that, I'm going to explain you the setup on what you need to do to actually make it work. So first of all, you would like to head inside of my resource hub under hub.integratiquest.com. You can create a free account. Obviously, it's completely free. You don't pay anything for that. And you will look for the resource for this video. It is also mentioned down below in the comments. Once you are there, you first of all will copy this Google Sheet. So you have that exact same copy that I have right here, with all of the fields predefined. And it is really important that you don't change the Google Sheet names, because this might mess up the scenario when we're building it out on make.com, because we are going to leverage make.com as our workflow automation tool to just create more dynamic workflows in a very simplistic way so that you don't need to do those steps manually. Now, once you have the Google Sheet ready, the next step is basically to head into your make.com account, which you can do under make.com, create an account if you don't have to. And if you have, all you do is you head to scenarios, you then click at the top right to create a new scenario. And then you would like to head back into our resource hub and you would download the blueprint for the AI Code Caller Template 2.0. Once you have downloaded that, all you do is you head down here in your scenario on more, you click on import blueprint, you click on choose file, and you will upload that file to the scenario. Once you have done that, it will look something like this right here. And there are a lot of steps included. I promise you, I will keep it very simple, and I'm just going to go through the setup now so you understand exactly what you need to adjust just to make it work. And obviously the first thing is for Google integrations, the Google Sheet integrations. So you would basically just head on the Google Sheet here, you would connect your account with it, and then you would select the spreadsheet from that list right within here. And this spreadsheet is the one that you then basically copied from my resource hub, which then should look something like this, but whatever name you give it to, right? So you select that spreadsheet right here. You make sure that the sheet name wasn't changed, so this one can all stay the same. Once you have basically selected the spreadsheet, there is nothing else you need to do here. Then over here, you do the exact same thing. You just use the connection you created. You select the spreadsheet that you have basically copied. You just remove that part, and you do the exact same thing right over here. Choosing the spreadsheet, setting up the connection. Actually here, you don't need to change the spreadsheet. It's dynamically loaded from the front end just to make it a bit easier. And the same thing here. So you basically just set up your connection. After you have done all of those steps, you basically head into this assistant ID field right here, because this is where you have to define the ID of the assistant. So when you head back into Vapi, you basically go to the assistant that you would like to use for this outbound calling template, which is basically the static assistant that you would later use to make it dynamically transient based. So once you are on the assistant, up here you will find an ID. You can click on this button to copy it. You would then head back into the scenario, you go to Assistant ID, and you paste this ID right within here, click OK, and you do the same thing over here with the Vapi API key. I have my API key added already, but I'm just going to show you where you can find it. You simply head down here on your name, go to API keys, and you will then be able to select this private API key, which you then just post right within the scenario here. So once you have done that, you are literally ready with this scenario. This is the first one we are going to basically use, which allows us to completely turn this assistant dynamic from the static one. So in the next step, we are just going to save this one. And now you would basically head over and create a new scenario, which I have done here in a new tab. Within this new scenario, you would again go to our resource hub. You would download the AI Code Caller Template 2.0 callbacks, and you follow the exact same procedure for importing the blueprint by going down here to the buttons, clicking on import blueprint, selecting that file and uploading it. After you've done that, you will see a very simple scenario that looks something like this, which again is very, very simple and literally just includes two things that we need to adjust. And this one is literally just a placeholder in case you would like to include function calls. I've just added that, so in case you would like to add your own functions, you get a better understanding of where you can do that and that it works right out of the box without you actually figuring out how to configure it in a different way. Perfect. So then let's head back into maybe the Google Sheets first. So right within the Google Sheets, all you would do is you would select again this dynamic AI Code Caller template that you copied from the Google Sheet. So whatever name you basically give it to, you simply copy that one. Again, make sure you haven't changed the sheet names, the ones within the transcript down here. And once you've done that, all you need to do is click OK, and that's literally it. Over here, we head then to the webhook endpoint. You need to create a new webhook endpoint and you copy the address to the clipboard. This is really important, so you definitely have to do this. After clicking OK, you then use this URL. You go back to the assistant that you basically want to connect to this whole template. You head over here to advanced, and within advanced, you scroll down and you add the server URL right within here. So this is basically the webhook URL. Once you've done that, you click on published and you are ready to go. Now we already have a setup that works, that we can use to cold call any kind of leads, and to test it and to actually take it live, I'm going to explain you the next steps. So obviously you would need to have your system prompt. I just have a very basic prompt right here that just says I would like to have a conversation about life and my caller name. And as you can see here, I also use a dynamic tag, which is what this template also does. It basically turns this static assistant into a dynamic assistant with the values we set up. So by default from this template, you can use all of the values available up here as a tag. And if you would like to know what the tags are, you can go to this module. It's called dynamic variables. And right within here, you see the tags. So you can copy user country, current time, and first name. So what I'm going to do is I will also add the current time, just so we have the current time available. So we can now say something like the current time is, and then we can literally just add this dynamic tag. So this basically will then add this information dynamically on each call into the prompt and basically start this call over. So to test it, what you would like to do is you head in this callback scenario and you save it down here. And you schedule it, which then again means that you basically just have it active and it can run anytime or every time a report comes in or whatever else Vapi wants to send along. Then we are already so far that we now can literally just set up the phone number before actually trying it. So we have a dynamic phone number set up right here, which basically allows you to round robin through a set of numbers, like I mentioned in the Google Sheet, which is defined over here in the phone number section. So depending on the amount of phone numbers you have, what you would do is you would literally just head over to the phone numbers. You would go to each of the phone numbers and you would copy this ID right here by clicking on this button. And you would then place this ID right in this field over here. And you can literally do this for all of your phone numbers that you basically have. So you would basically just add them like here. And you would also set the status to active, which means nothing else than that this phone number can be used in the assistant. And I just built in this logic. So in case you have a number that is flagged or it doesn't work that well, you can literally just set it to inactive, for example, and it will not be used anymore. So since it's the same, I'm just leaving it here. It works anyways because it's the same number. But now we have everything ready for actually calling our setup. And I will also show you how this looks like inside of the reporting, etc. So as you can see, we have a total lead of 1, which is me. I'm sitting here and it says I'm not called and it has no phone number connected. So what I'm going to do now is I will literally just call myself to see how the assistant sounds and how I set it up. By the way, whatever you set inside of your assistant will also be compatible with the dynamic assistant that I set up. So if you choose a different transcriber or a different voice, you don't need to be worried, it will work right out of the box. So now, as we have defined it here, hello first name, it should basically be able to say my first name while having the outbound call, or it should have access to it in the first place, depending on how fast I can answer. But all I'm going to show you now is that once I click run once here, it will basically run through this whole scenario and update a couple of information and actually make a call to my number. So let's do that. As you can see on the screen, it runs along, and now on my phone, we should see a phone call coming in. Here it is, and now I'm going to accept it and we can then talk to it. Hello there.
Hey Janis, how's it going today?
Hey, I'm good. Can you tell me the current time?
Sure thing. The current time is 12:06 p.m. on May 29th, 2024. Is there anything else you need help with today?
That's it. Thank you very much. And as you can see now, if we head over to the call sheet, you can see that we have been called and it has been a phone number assigned to us, which is the phone number that we have randomly selected from whatever kind of phone number we have available inside of the phone number sheet. So we can keep track on which phone number performed which way, which then again helps you just to run specific reports on top of this phone number down the line. Now, since we have been called, we also have access to the transcript right here, which you can see right over here. So we basically have the phone number, we have the phone number ID we called from, and we have the reason for the call, and as well the whole transcript. Obviously, it is not really good with my name, just because it always assumes I'm Janis for whatever reason, but that doesn't matter. You have the information there, and now if we head to the report section, you can as well see that the customer ended call has been adjusted to 3. We can see we have a total of 4 transcripts, and we have been called, and so basically we switched from uncalled lead to called lead. So this is the exact setup and how it works behind the scenes, and if you really just want to use it or you have some technical person, this is all you need to know so far to actually make it work and set it up. And now I'm going to share with you some more technical tips and tricks on how this actually works and how you can customize it in case you would like to add more dynamic information. So for doing that, obviously we would head first of all into our massive scenario over here. So there are a lot of things that you basically don't need to adjust because they're literally just for validating the information. So even if you want to, there's no need for it. But you can obviously go through each of those separately and get an understanding and feeling for it. But the first one is probably the trigger, because this is a very interesting one, as it basically defines the amount of leads that you are calling at a time with a specific scenario. So as you can see here, this one runs every 15 minutes and basically checks inside of the lead list if there are any new leads that have not been called yet. If they haven't been called yet, then they will basically run through this whole scenario. And down here, there is a limitation, so I basically limited to a maximum of 1000 specific rows from this Google Sheet being run through a single scenario. Obviously, you need to adjust this depending on what you want, but just make sure that you set this to a number that actually fits to the plan that you have with make.com, and so that you can make sure that it doesn't run into any kind of timeouts or any other issues, right? Because this again makes it more complex. So what I suggest is in the beginning, I would probably start out with 1 or 10, so you can try it, and then you can basically go further and see how long it takes you to make the communication happen between your Google Sheet or whatever else you would like to integrate. So once you have done that, you can head over here a couple of steps down the line where you see basically this part and this Google Sheet iterator, because those two are where we are defining the dynamic variables. So I have shown this part earlier to you, which is where we can create those dynamic variables. And now I'm going to show you an example on how you can extend that if you would like to add more information. So let's, for example, say we are in the Google Sheet and we would like to have also the details about the job title, for example, that this lead has, right? So let's say managing director, for example, whatever that means. So now we have the job title available, and now we would also like to use that one inside of the sheet and make it a dynamic tag so that we can use it after as a dynamic tag inside of our system prompt and first message. So for doing that, we would obviously head into the dynamic variables. I'm gonna copy this whole block here because I like to edit things visually. So then we head over to a tool called JSON Editor Online, which looks like this. What I would do now is I would just paste this whole JSON I added here, and it throws an error, which in that case is okay, because it complains about something that we have as a value right within here, which is make specific. So make.com has its own tags, and this one just validates wrong here, but it will validate the right way if we add it to make.com. This is the first thing. So now what we do to add a new tag, I will basically just copy the last curly bracket, including the last comma. I'll copy that part, and now at the very end, after the curly bracket, I just paste it again. We have basically a new line now. And now I can adjust this to the actual job title. So I can say user job underscore title, and we can remove this dynamic field here because this is what we map directly inside of make.com. Once it looks like that, you just copy it, you head back into here and you paste it with a new job title field. And now we can map it based on whatever we sent through the Google Sheet. So we have added the field and I haven't run it, so it isn't recognized yet, but we know already that it is inside of the column F, which we also have available here. So all I do is I literally just select column F and I click OK. This is all I need to do. Now this information will be also available as a custom tag during our call. So to use it, what you would do is you would just use the tag you created, underscore user job title, etc. And you head back into your actual system prompt, and now you can create a square bracket and a closing square bracket to add this tag. So this tag is then dynamically replaced by whatever is available inside of the Google Sheet right here. If there's nothing available, it will just have an empty space, so nothing. This is basically the next part, and this is the way how you can customize and add your very own dynamic tags to this whole template. I'm gonna click OK here. And now lastly, we head over to the last part, which is where we are dynamically updating some information. So obviously we set here whether or not we actually have made the call, which is this field right here. So if we have been called and the call actually was successful, which is done with this module right here, we then set this one here to called. And then in the last step here with the phone ID, there we literally just take the dynamic phone number that we have used for this call and we set this one inside the phone number ID right over here. I don't assume you need to adjust those, but I wanted to mention it so that in case you would like to adjust something else dynamically in here of the information you have, you can do this by just adding more of those Google Sheet modules right here. Or if you have really a lot of them, it probably even makes sense to just have one module that not just adjusts a single cell, but a whole row. Perfect. This is all I have to say to this specific template. Now we are heading over to the actual callback template, which is a very interesting one because this is the one that we are using mostly for a lot of the different Vapi functionality. So if we head back into our assistant and you go to advanced and you scroll down a bit, you can see here under server messages, there are a couple of messages that can be sent whenever a call is happening. So you have something like status update, transcript, etc. So it can basically just send over a couple of those features by default. I would always suggest to have the end of call report, a function call, and maybe a hang in case something else goes wrong. You can also take care and track this down the line. And the end of call is the one that we really care about in the scenario over here, because we basically validate against that one here, and you can see it. We have a message type, which whenever basically an end of call report came in, which is defined here, then we want to run this module up here. And you can basically add whatever you want up here, which then again fires when the end of report or the end of call report comes in. Then all we do here is we literally just map those fields dynamically to that Google Sheet transcripts sheet right here, where we basically add all of those informations. So there's one more thing here with the phone number, which is maybe interesting to mention. Since Google Sheets has some difficulties in some ways, especially when you work a lot with dynamic data, to add phone numbers with a plus in the front. You will see that right here. If I add a plus and I head back into the cell, you can see that it shows now an equal sign. So it basically reformats and validates the number in a different format, which then again just breaks a search scenario when you run it. So just need to keep that in mind. And in my case, I always solved it by just replacing the plus by nothing. This is literally what this whole logic does right here. And you will see that as well inside of this template a couple of times. So this is already everything you actually need to get started on this. Obviously you can customize that in whatever way possible, and literally you can use the whole power of make.com, and as well you can use any kind of other workflow automation provider for doing something like this, like N8N for example, or Microsoft Power Automate I think works a similar way. It might just be a little more complex on some parts on how you validate the information. I just like how simple it is with make.com, which is why I'm building out those scenarios here, and I can share them really easily with you on my resource hub. Yeah, with that out of the way, I think you now have a complete template that you can use for your outbound cold calling agents or sales calls, wherever you would like to use it. And this is incredibly powerful and probably one of the best ones that you can get out there. And you have full control over everything you do, which means you can also adjust pricing. You can adjust the providers, which is why I like Vapi, which this possibility you don't have, for example, with Blind AI or with Synthflow. So this whole setup gives you the most flexibility while actually being able to do stuff in a more no-code way without relying on the complete predefined structure. I'm just a massive fan of that because it just brings all of this flexibility in, which again helps me as well and my team to basically customize the things to our customers' need more specifically and more tailored than any other platform can offer it. That's all I got so far. I really hope you get some value out of this video, and if you do, please like the video down below and follow my channel. I'm posting a lot of more those kind of videos. And if you have any further questions, you're most welcome to just drop me a comment below this video too. I'm reading through all of them. And for now, thanks for watching, and if you have anything else, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, take care.